Hello, everybody. Welcome to What I Actually Do, a chat show on careers based purely off a meme. I'm your host, Fatiha, and today we are joined by Kathy.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Fatiha.
Yay, yay, yay. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, What I Actually Do is a pet project of mine to get, a closer look at what some people do for a living. Maybe in case anyone is considering doing what Kathy does. You just want to know a little bit more about these jobs, or if you're stuck in the embarrassing small talk, as I usually am. When you meet somebody and they go, "Hey, oh, so what do you do?" Or like, say for example, I'm an architect, and you just kind of like, "Oh, that's cool." You don't really know what to say after that, and I always
We
find
draw
myself to be
buildings.
stuck in that. Oh yeah, you draw the building, you make the building very good. Okay. I do that with Lego. Total dreams. Like, all right. So I found myself always being stuck in that situation, which is why I decided, you know what, maybe I should find out more about what people do so that when I do meet somebody who does something similar, I'd be like, I know that. I've got a friend that does that. So anyway, before we start, I want to thank everybody or those of you who are already joining us this evening. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you prefer to listen, it's also available on Spotify. Some people they prefer not to see; they just want to like hear things. So, yeah, we are on Spotify. And for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy your beverage of choice. If you want, we'll give it a few more minutes before for people to join in. You want to step away, make yourself a cup of coffee, go ahead and do that. I know I've got a coffee right here, Kopi O, which I'm
Got
sharing with
my
my.
handy water bottle that
Yes.
travels with me everywhere.
Stay hydrated, you guys. Stay hydrated. It won't cure COVID, but it sure does. Oh, husband checking in here. Yes.
Feels like,
Hi,
that
Josh.
four square check-ins.
Hello, Josh. And I see somebody joined us a lot earlier. Well, left a comment a lot earlier, Miss and Isabel.
Yes, that's my friend. That's one of my best
Oh,
friends and
I'm
my
hoping
business
Isabel's
partner.
already in now. If Isabel, if you're already in, please do say a hello.
I don't know, she may be going between her parents. Oh, that's my mom. Hello.
Hello, hello. All right. Hi, Auntie. How are you? Hope you're doing good. Yeah, I'm just gonna checking in from typing. Wow, we've got people from typing. What's up,
Oh,
typing? Hi,
hello.
Lydia.
That's all my sister-in-laws. And I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm sure my mom-in-law and the whole family is sitting in there and
Oh,
watching.
I love that. But hey, watch it on
Hello.
different devices. Give Kathy some views. For those of you who
You,
don't
Josh.
already know or are new to it, Kathy is my first guest's wife.
Yes, yes, I am. So that's a tough bar to follow after. So
Yeah, well,
I'm hoping to
I
be
think
proud.
pretty much let's show an extra bit of support and maybe push at least the view bar a lot higher. Huh? Okay, so I think we'll just give it a bit more, get some more, wait for more people to come in. Um, but I think, yeah, it looks like you've got family who are here today. Thank you so much to everybody
Yes.
from Josh and Kathy's family for joining us today. I really appreciate you guys showing support for them and also for my show. Yeah, but if those of you who have just joined us, drop in a hello, say hi. I usually also share it with my family and yeah, hi Fatiha and Kathy. Hello, hello.
Hello. Oh, I'm supposed to go to the comments. Right? Okay, okay. I'm familiarizing myself with this StreamYard too. I'm like, oh, where are you guys seeing all of these things right Hi, Miss
Yeah.
Reggie.
We use this pretty awesome platform, StreamYard, for our live streams, and so it's a pretty cool platform. And those of you who are looking to go into either twitching or live streaming, I would definitely recommend it. Okay, so we're about 5 minutes in. I'm gonna get the ball rolling and firstly let you introduce yourself. So yes, take it away, Kathy. Introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Kathy. Long name Kathleen. But I'm rarely called that unless I'm probably goodness scolding from my parents when I was a kid.
Yes, you're in
but every
trouble, Kathleen.
yeah, Kathleen Marie Fernandez. No lah, tak ada lah. Not as bad. But yeah, so Kathy. is what I go by. I am a change consultant, facilitator, and coach. I'm a business owner as well, so Busy Buds is my baby. And but before this, so that's who I am now. But I guess I'll also give a bit of background of who I've been all these many years before, right? So I'm married, of course, to Joshua,
Of
and
course.
of course, and I actually I I can't say that I stumbled into this career, but I came about it because of, I think, both my parents. So like my mom used to be a teacher for special needs children, and she does counseling for couples. And my dad is a change consultant, and has been. So I think all my life I've always been trying to figure out what my dad does and how to explain that. And now it's time to figure out how I describe what I do myself. But I grew up with a lot of change, so I guess that's a part of it. Um, I I was born in Malaysia, then went to India to live there for like 5 years. My dad is Indonesian.
Wow.
Yeah, and then came back at the age of 5, and was in Malaysia for 11 years before we moved to Singapore. Was there for 8 years. Did my pre-U, my uni, started work. I did my degree in media and communications, so totally
Wow.
unrelated.
Fellow media friend.
Hey! I know. So, but before that, I was just a performing arts kid, right? I loved being out in the open. Sports, performing the stage was my love. And then I decided that I wanted to go into training and coaching and consulting because I just always knew that I wanted to do work in that area since I was 14. But that's a whole story in itself. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, you were saying that you love performing, and I guess what you do in terms of, when you're coaching, when you're speaking to your clients, your audience, it kind of is like performance or performing. You have an
Yeah.
audience that you're speaking to, so it's not that far. Just maybe whether or not you break into a random song, and if the
If
stage
only
is.
life was a Broadway show, right? If only.
I
Yeah.
feel the same. I
I
feel
think
the
I think I
same.
do though. I definitely break out into song at random times in the day. I'm doing little dances as I'm working, so my life is a musical at least, even if nobody else sees it, but mine is.
So Kathy, how do you okay, so officially we somebody of who does what you do would be called a change consultant. Are there other titles that people might
Yes.
use?
So there. Okay. So I feel like in the work that I do, especially, there are a lot of there are a lot of terms or titles that fit into the category, right? So, change consultant, change management consultant. Then, of course, you have coach. These are executive coaches, professional coaches, and then facilitators. And then you have your trainers, and all of these are kind of different faces of a similar creature, but it's not exactly the same. But they definitely lend into each other, and I think the world is people development. Yeah.
Right. I think people development is definitely a great way to sum it up. And I mean, to go from Broadway, or well, somebody with that sort of background and love and passion, and to study media, which I myself did as well. I did mass comm. How do you end up from there to something else? And I guess very similar to your husband Josh, doing something not to say
Mm.
completely different, but a little bit more a little bit different from what you actually studied or probably intended to end up in.
Um, that's great because I finished my degree. Of course, my parents. I have to thank my parents first of all because they've supported me through all of the different changes that I have decided that I want to go through. So I studied media. Um, Not necessarily out of choice. If it was up to
Mm-hmm.
me, I would have gone to LaSalle and, probably taken out
Taken
performing
to the
arts and
stage.
be the triple thread, quadruple thread that I always dreamed of being. And then my
West
parents
End,
were like,
here I come.
forget West End, I want Broadway. I mean,
Ooh.
be nice. Ramin Karamlu would also be good to work with. But But I'm really grateful that my parents did tell or kind of knock some sense into me and say like, hey, uh, you should do something where you get to use your creative skills, but also have some area of development where you can work with people. Because I am a people person generally,
Right.
and so first I was like, oh, do I have to do business? And like, me and numbers are like arch
Do
enemy
I
of
have
me.
to do maths?
Do I have to do math? Like, my dad has a really great story which he keeps telling till today about how um, he basically paid so much money for me to go to this maths tuition, right? Side story now. Basically, he paid so much money for me to go to this maths tuition for my pre-U, and I used to skip those classes to sit by the pool in my condo. The tutor was in my same condo, okay?
Champion.
But I used to sit down near the poolside.
This is not the change we want you to
No, no, no,
take
definitely.
an example from, yeah, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't the example you should follow or your kids should
But
follow.
I guess if I were to spin it, I would say that I always knew that maths wasn't for me and other things were. So that's my spin on it. um, but I did mass comm and I really loved it because I think just being able to create so many different things. I was the nerd who yes, my mother's saying truth will set you free. Yes. This is my truth. But I was the nerd who come back home from school and go to YouTube and watch ads from around the world for fun. And I wouldn't like go and watch TV shows necessarily, but I would spend a good 2 hours after school just looking through international ads, right? Because I was just so
Wow.
amazed by how people could tell such powerful, moving stories in like 30 seconds, you know?
I've got a few of my friends who also went to college with me. I've got Maria and
Ah,
Fuzz, and I think they share our love for advertising as well.
yes. I mean, the
Our
creative side
creative
is great,
media
but the
people.
the life side of it, not so.
I would agree. Advertising's great, but the life of it.
um,
Okay.
a whole other story in itself. Yeah, and
Definitely,
I've
definitely.
got my primary school friend. She's one of my oldest friends, Fazlina, in the chat.
Oh, that's
I've known
lovely.
her
Thank
since I
you. Hi,
was
Fazlina.
5 or 6.
So
So
she knows you skipping all those tuition classes, lah.
she probably know more than just that now. All of our little.
And so how did you discover this going into training? Like how
Yeah.
does somebody like sign up for it? Did you start up a company of your own? Like how did that
Is
eventually
this
begin?
the
Okay.
end yet?
No, 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 it's not.
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I love his little guest appearances every time,
I
every
know.
week. But okay, my dad is a change consultant coach, and so I guess I've always heard and seen the type of impact he's had, and for me, it was always like I wanna have that large impact, right? I wanna make a difference in people's lives, and I think little Kathy was always trying to do that in some way, whichever way she could with her friends, of like coaching her friends, being
Guru
a space for
Busakachi.
conversation. I go to Masakachi we said yesterday. But just always being interested in I think seeing the best in people. And I think I saw both my parents doing that. And then training just seemed like a space with a larger impact, right? Because I could work with individuals, small teams, as well as large organizations. And I was
Right,
just like,
right.
that's a whole lot of place for playing around instead of just doing like winning things. So after being in advertising for a few months, I think 8 months, I just yeah, very short time. Um, but I decided that I want to combine this love of performing arts and training and working with people together because I have benefited from performing arts. And so I asked my parents if they would be gracious to let me join a teaching speech and drama program, which I
Oh
did. And
wow, okay.
so I did that after working for a bit. And then I worked in a company that did drama based corporate training. And then I realized that okay, this is great and all. This is fun, but I want more, right? I want to do more for people. I know that there's bigger things to do. And then I started venturing out into my own. I got a certification in coaching,
Ah, okay, okay.
facilitation, trainings. Um, and then I think 2 years after leaving the 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
um, I stumbled to with another well, my partner Isabel, and we
I see.
joined
Okay.
forces. It was like Captain Planet or Power Rangers. We all came together, Transformers, right? Avengers, assemble! We came together and started Busy Buds for what it is now. But
Okay.
that's how I came
Right,
into
right, right. Okay, okay. Well, we'll get in a little bit more about how somebody can get into that line. But first, um, let's get 8 months in
I
advertising.
agree,
I
Maria.
agree. 8 months in
I so agree.
advertising does feel like a lifetime. I agree with you,
I did
Maria.
months before that in production, so enough of my,
She'd know about that too. She would know
6
very much
a.m.
about
couple
that.
times, 3 a.m. finishing up. Yeah,
All right,
that's
so we're gonna
my
go
job.
into the first segment, which is what your friends and family think you do.
Yeah. I
Okay.
forgot these intermissions. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so firstly, how I think we know probably how your parents. I think I'm pretty sure your parents know what you do, but yes, my lovely chickens. How do your friends and family generally, how do they generally describe your job to people?
Okay. Um, I think my mom might have the most interesting version or description, right? So she might say that Kathy is saving the world. She's saving people's lives. She's really
Aww.
helping to build them, and so I would love to borrow that. So my mom is probably both my parents are two of my biggest cheerleaders, um, and of course seeing my dad go through all of that, she's just like, okay lah, I might not understand it, but y'all go do what y'all need to do. I know y'all make an
Yeah.
impact. My friends, um, my friends might probably say that uh, I don't know what job she does, but all I know is she talks a lot and she asks lots of questions. That might be. She just talks a lot and she asks lots of questions.
No,
She's always trying to make people, think more and all of these things. So that's how they might describe.
she talks a lot.
Also, born with these molds since I was young. They're like, ni mesti cakap banyak lah bila dia besar
So
ni.
well, I got it a lot as well. But yeah, I mean, I think your mom's description of what you do has to be the most beautiful description of a child's job that I've ever heard. It's like, oh, she's saving the world. I'm like, wow. I think we all want our moms to be like, my
Yes.
child is saving the world. Oh my god.
Yes, I really think she thinks that too.
It's
Really
beautiful. I think
deeply.
it's really beautiful. But um I mean, that being said, I wouldn't say it's a crazy misconception, but have you ever heard any really like a far out there descriptions of what you do? Like besides, oh, she talks a lot. What would you
Uh,
say is kind of like way off base, but you've kind of had to like correct a friend, like, actually.
yeah, I think when people think that, oh, they're doing some motivational talk, some dance and drama in front of people. You're just sitting down there and like, oh, okay, kita boleh dengan semangat, right? And all of those things are way off base. I'm, that is one particular line of training and that exists for its reason, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not the way I would describe my work. I think another way probably is, I think some might even think that I'm a therapist, right?
Wow.
Which is completely, that's a whole another genre of
Mm-hmm.
work in itself, right? And that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of deep work. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not. I don't. I don't. I mean, maybe in some senses, but I don't say that I'm a therapist. I'm not working with people's trauma, past, and
Yeah.
things like that. We're working forward.
I
Yeah.
suppose it's because of the coach element. So you do get people who are life coaches who kind of do touch into that. But yeah, I would imagine that where because you're not working purely with groups, you work with
Mm,
individuals. And that was something that I found out as well, was that you don't only work with groups. Like I think oftentimes we hear, as somebody from the corporate field, where you have team building exercises, and it's very much always okay. We've got the coach and then the whole company, in groups and whatever. But you don't have like one on one so much. So I think that
Mm,
that would be something. That's something really interesting that I came to learn. Um, Besides that, I mean, I think as we always say, it's a small world after all. Do you ever either promote
something in my head, but
yeah.
yeah.
Do you ever either promote your services to your family members or your friends, or do you ever end up like, hey, that's my cousin in like team building. What you doing here?
uh, Honestly, I would say yes. Not that they should be my clients,
Mm,
um, but uh, I think it's also before the title came, the person already existed, right?
right.
And so the title and some of the skills I learned along the way, but I think I've always kind of had some of these characteristics, um, and these just got refined as I grew up. So coached I have coached my family. I do talk to some of my cousins even about business ideas because some of them are also in training and learning and development.
Wow. So it's a
Yeah,
family thing.
it's a family thing. I think we're just big on education and helping people, and so that's the family element of things. But friends, yes. Friends, I think I've definitely been a bit more like macam oh my god macam takut sikit nak cakap pasal what I do. I think it's also because they've seen you all this while, like for example some of my primary friends, I'm still friends with them today, and they've probably seen me like this monkey and just this jakun, and then they might think like budak ni nak buat coaching and she's doing she's helping people live better lives and all these things. So I think there might have been some
Ni dulu selalu ponteng tuition ni nak ajar.
iyalah, tak nak buat homework lah, tulisan pun macam cakap ayam lah. So,
Mm.
there might be some part of my brain that's just like, oh, they might not think I am suitable for the job. Um, but I have coached. I'm grateful that I have friends and family who trust me enough
Mhm.
to have that experience. Yeah.
Right, right, right. But I mean, okay, so given that you come from a very unique family of in a
Hmm.
sense where everybody kind of has at either educational or coaching, so to speak, background, how does that how does that dynamic work out? Like do you ever kind of catch yourself because I understand with coaching you kind of have to be able to read people. So do you like kind of read each other and have that like I mean, I would imagine the kids, the younger generations are like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like it's a lot.
I mean, thankfully, my nephew is 5 and my niece is like, 4 months. So they might not get fed up with it just yet. but, but I think, like even Josh has said this before, right? If I'm having a conversation and Dala, I already like asking lots of questions and I just want to know. But then since I've gone through coaching, people are like, "Can you just stop coaching me? Yeah? Can you just answer the question? Can you just tell me what I want to hear?" And I'm just like, I'm just asking a normal question, right? Like,
So it
is this,
feels it feels often
yeah,
like they see coach you as opposed to you.
yeah. So that does happen. But I think what's really interesting is my dad, because he's been in this for a long time, and I know he
Right.
used to do experiments in our family uh, for his work as well. So I think
Lab rat.
we are the lab rats after all. But I think that was just really such a good experience because I learned so many things. I mean, learning about blind spots at the age of 14. I don't think many
Wow.
14-year-olds know that they have blind spots to
I
get
mean,
picked up.
I mean, at that age, we all go for Camp Venus Mangat. Like more.
That's so true. Like, you can do it, right? But to know
But
that
you're
we
more
have
like blind spot.
flaws. Yeah, so I was exposed to so many things growing up. But I also see myself doing that with my nephew and from like definitely my niece too when she's old enough. Um, I definitely see the way that I speak to him and the way that I try to do things with him. It's also an experiment of like, how do I communicate to him differently, right? How do I start coaching him from like the age of 2? And
Right,
I think
right,
it
right.
works because he loves talking to me. He waits for me to come over on weekends, and I I,
You're
I
the
I
cool auntie.
I think I'm one of his best friends. At least I I want to believe that, but I think I'm one of his best friends because of that. Because I try to listen to him, and I get stories, which I think my parents did for me as well.
Right.
But in terms of reading each other, I think all of us are constantly reading each other. I think we just grew up in a household where um, understanding psychology and different things about each other was always prominent. So sometimes we're definitely like, you may say that, you may think your face may,
You're
look
reading
like
each other.
that.
I can't
It's not
imagine what that's
really,
gonna be.
yeah. So it's not that easy to lie or hide things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so your mom definitely knows you punting class.
Yes. I
Okay, so
probably got it from her though.
we've got a great question from Maria. Maria is a
Uh-huh.
parent, and I think
Yes.
this is great as a parent. I think a lot of parents want to know this as well. At
Yeah.
what age should coaching start? I mean, or is there a type of coaching or a sort of what can we do to kind of s- very introductory level, maybe
Mm.
coaching? What age should that start?
So I believe this because I've received it. I also know that the person that I learned coaching from, Captain Shan from Team Coach, he's also a great advocate for saying every house should have a coach, right? And it's not for the title. It's not
Right,
because you're a coach in the family, but I think it's the fact that our mindset and way of approaching people is so different when we have a coach's approach. Um, and so I think I started coaching my nephew from the age of like 2, probably, in a sense. And again, that's just a term, right? But it's in the way that you communicate. It's in the way that you're present with the person. It's in the way that you ask questions and you're really interested about what they have to say.
hmm,
And I think that changes over time. So how you would coach your toddler is going to be very different from how you coach your teenager, very
right,
different from how you coach your young adult child. Um,
right.
if you ask me, every house, everyone should go and learn coaching skills. It's a great life skill to have, irrespective of what you do.
Doesn't that raise up a lot more competitors to you, or maybe just I mean, maybe not get certified but at least learn some degree of coaching skills lah.
Yeah, at least the coaching skills. I mean, like, okay, even Josh is a certified coach, right? But if I ask him,
Wow,
do you? Yes, I know.
we did not know
Um,
that. Oh.
But if I ask him, will he use coaching skills? Will he, does he promote himself as a coach? No, but he uses those skills in his regular conversations, right?
Wow,
I think he
okay.
uses that even with his family, right? And so, yeah, you don't have to get certified. I think certification definitely just helps if you want to advance your career in that, um, or if you want to go through a rigorous practice program. But I think yes, everyone should learn coaching skills.
I definitely see how it's useful as a parent, like having coaching skills or knowing it to an extent, because in a way parents are kind of their child's coach. So knowing how to kind of bring out the best in your kid, and see where their strengths are, and really kind of
Mm,
help that grow. I think that's really awesome. That's something that would be something parents should look at building for
yeah,
themselves, or even the cool auntie or the cool uncle.
exactly. Flex these skills wherever you can. I think it's a human skill. It's not a learning and development skill or a people development
Right,
skill. I think it's just a human skill.
right,
Um,
right, right.
and yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do is we will be moving into the second segment, which is what society thinks you do. By the way, I do welcome everybody who is joining us tonight. Please, if you have any other questions, like Maria, drop your questions in the comment box below, because it's live for that reason, so that you guys can actually ask the questions. You probably never really get to ask other change consultants, or maybe if you're doing a training program, tak sempat pula nak tanya dia. So,
Yeah.
our second segment is what society thinks you do. And Kathy, what would you say is society's general impression of what you do? I think I said a little bit just now about how probably I would think as somebody who does the change consultancy or coaching, um, my thought would be that it's can business mangat. Like you just come on, let's do it. Make the money.
Yeah, it's not as easy as that. But I think when people hear the term consultant, especially, people think expert, right? Oh, hold on. Yeah, when people hear consultant,
Sabi tekan.
they think expert, right? They think that this person has all the answers. They're gonna give the best advice possible, and that's not it, right? At least in the way that I approach it, the way that I see my father approach it, and the way that Busy Butts approaches it. We're not saying, hey, we have all the answers, and you just have to follow this 5-step method, and your business is gonna
Right, right,
boom,
right.
right? We don't approach it in that way. So definitely people thinking that we're experts, people thinking that you always have all the answers and you're always right, and probably people thinking that you're just super confident and your life is like easy breezy cover girl, right? I think that's generally
Cover
what
girl.
society yeah, easy breezy cover girl. But like I think generally people think that, okay, if you're a consultant, that means your life is 100%. Your life is sorted. Everything's perfect and fine and dandy. You're always
Because
on
you
top.
advise people how to live their
You
life, so
advise,
your
so
life
you
must be
should,
like amazing.
walk the talk kind of things. But so those are the misconceptions.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, given that there's these misconceptions and these, I mean, I actually that did not occur to me that yeah, probably that people do think, um, hey, if you guys are the ones giving us advice, and you should have it all in the bag. I think that's similar to people who go for those talks by those writers about how to become a millionaire. It's like you you should be a millionaire, right? I mean, you're not just selling a book about it. So, where do you think the misconception comes from?
um, I think it's probably from. I mean, okay, in the work that we do, we know that nothing is singular in nature. Everything is because of a system, right? So, of course, the system, you know, propagates this idea as well,
Mhm.
and the fact that people generally want to portray a fantastic image. And so I
Right.
would think that even people in the industry, coaches, facilitators themselves, or trainers, speakers, um, because of credibility, I think we probably mistake credibility as knowing it all versus
Hmm.
I've tried it and I failed, and here's what I've experienced and I've learned, and I want to help you get through that to find your way. Because uh, so I think that's one part of it. I think people also, just because I think as human nature, we're all very hierarchical as a system.
Hmm.
We always find people to look up to, and we believe that people should lead the way for us sometimes. And that's the way that the system has been built, right? It's not the best thing because no one is like above the other, So I think uh, people wanting to have the answers. I guess that's why we go to the, oh my god, what is this? The madams. Tell me your
The
future.
fortune tellers.
Yeah, the fortune tellers. That's all. you know.
That was episode 3, by the way.
Oh,
For those
nice.
of you who missed it, not fortune teller
Check it
lah,
out.
but I believe
Episode
Adam
two,
is with us
kan?
tonight. Yeah, episode 2. Sorry, yeah, episode 2.
Episode two, yes.
Yeah, episode 2.
Yeah.
I believe Adam is with us tonight. So if you want your fortunes told, dah lah. If you want your
I mean,
metaphysics
there are
read,
signs
look at
to things
Adam
like
in
this.
the crowd. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just people like wanting to have the answers, wanting to have life all figured out before they experience it, even,
Right.
right? To have the cheat code, to have the answer sheet
Yeah.
before things happen. And so I think people fall into that because they believe that someone has the answers and
And they
they'll be able
expect
to help
people
me.
in your field to kind of have that answer and be like, no,
Yeah.
no, you have to tell me. I don't need the whole story. Just tell me the answer. Give it to me
Don't ask
straight.
me questions. Don't let me think about this myself. don't ask me how this fits into my life. Just tell me how to do it. Yeah.
Don't make me think. That's not what I'm here for. But I mean, okay, so from that, given that we are now in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm pretty sure everybody's, well, we are now moving towards endemic, but and coaching, I think, we've all grown up, even if it's schooling or everything, we're used to that face-to-face coaching, especially if you're coaching one-on-one. So how has that changed the industry
Mm,
for you? I mean, from what your dad did, from what you do now, and I guess with busy bud. So how have you
yeah.
moved that or move with the industry,
I think
with
it,
the times? How's the industry
yes.
changed with the times?
Um, so, okay, the industry has been around for ages and ages. I think as long as people
Hmm.
have been around, it's been there, right? People have always been trying to
Hmm.
help each other. But I think since I entered the industry, um, and for what happened during the pandemic. We started Busy Buds in January 2020. Pandemic hit
While you
in
literally came in like
March.
bam,
Yes. So we were
COVID.
blindsided by that, and so basically our whole business model and all the work that we do has been built around just doing things virtually, which is great
Okay.
because we have the advantage, I guess, of being digitally inclined.
You
You
started
know,
that way, so it's kind of like you don't have to rewrite the formula for how your
yeah,
business runs anyway.
exactly. And I think just the fact that when we all came together, like all of us really believe in people having the answers. So one of the models that we work with at our company at BusyBuds is that people will be doing the work 70 to 80% of the time, and we'll be doing sharings or content pieces 20% of the time, right? And so even in the way we approach our training sessions, we started right at the middle of the pandemic, and right at the start of the pandemic, and the first product or program that we ran or created from scratch, I think we were one of the first people in Malaysia to start this, is how to run virtual training programs. Uh,
Okay.
because that what we saw was at the start of the pandemic, everyone was just doing webinars, right?
Yes, that is
It
so
was like
true.
hundreds of
It was the in
webinars.
thing.
It was anything, and like people had webinars after webinars scheduled for themselves, and it was just so tiring to just listen to one person talk the entire time,
Right.
right? And so we
That's
were
why
just like,
we're two of people talking.
exactly, it's a conversation, it's different. But yeah, and so we were just, and I guess the big question in my head has always been, there's got to be a better way of doing this. There has
Right.
to be a better way of doing this. And so kind of put our brains together. We did a lot of market research. We spoke to a lot of people, what their challenges were, and then we created this program called e-workshops at work, helping especially trainers because they had so much good content and help to give to people, but they just didn't know how to do it online.
Right.
And so I guess part of the change work was like the giant piece, like listening to the cockroach crowing. These
Chickens.
are our little sound effects. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess the change work started even at the beginning of Busy Butts, right? Even though we weren't
Right.
doing change on a corporate scale or an organization scale, we were helping people transition through this change of pre-COVID and COVID. Um, but I think it's really exciting because it really forces you to think about things differently, and just the fact that so many inventions have happened during this COVID period,
Yeah,
I think
definitely. A lot
it's
of
just
things have changed, and
yeah.
businesses are really going into that. How do you disrupt yourself in
Mm,
this period, and how do you cope with everything that's happening, and how do you change your business so that you can survive this? And I think
yeah,
with what you do and kind of in or I would say igniting that thought process, and
yeah,
rather than giving them the answers, it's okay, how do I help you think of
exactly.
how you can because you don't know, you're not the expert of every industry that you have to kind of tell them what to do.
Yes,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
I guess
Oh,
that's a yeah.
yes, because like
Okay,
we will say we're process experts, not content
right,
experts, and every
right.
situation is different from the other, right?
I
Yeah.
want to take this question from Farid Fauzi, or Faz as I like to call him.
Yeah.
Um, do you have challenges in trying to propose to a company in giving their staff a coaching session? And will one session actually help give results? I think that's a pretty cool
I
question. I
love
want
that
to, yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, big, bold, red, yes to that first half of that question. Yeah,
They
yes,
don't
that's
need
absolutely.
training. They know how to do their job.
um, but coaching, I think, just in itself, the stigma probably is people who are challenged or struggling are the ones who need coaching, and I think
Hmm.
that's a possible stigma that still exists. But actually, coaching is for people who want to grow, people who are winners in that sense, right? I want to make a difference. I want to get better. And so if you have that mindset, then that's amazing because you want to grow. So challenges in proposing to a company, um, I think it's also the factor of people. Okay, a coaching session is not they're not learning a skill in a coaching session.
Hmm.
They're learning about themselves and
Right.
how they want to better improve. I think it's in two levels. One is the fear that if people get better and they figure out what they want in life, that they might leave my company. So
Right. Okay.
that's
Okay.
one
Okay.
whole fear that people sometimes avoid doing coaching. The other
Mm.
is
They
the
become too
mis-
good for my company, then they all want to leave.
yeah, all these high performers will become too high performers and then they'll leave the company, right? So that's one area, and I think just the logistics of it, right? So if I for a company to really believe in someone, it's usually at the C-suite level or the senior executive level that they'll say,
Right.
"I'll send you for coaching because you're going to help shape and direct the organization's growth."
Mm.
For someone in the management or lower executive level, they might not consider coaching because they're just like, you just need to learn, you just need to execute,
Right.
So they are,
And not leave.
yeah, and not leave. And the company's and probably there's a lot of turnover anyway happening there. So
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know if this person's going to stay, so I'm not going to
If I
invest in
invest
them
in them, yeah,
just
that's right.
yet.
That's right.
Yeah. So those are the challenges. And one session, no. One session isn't, it's like if you just have one meal a day, unless you've been routinely used to it, then it's probably not going to do anything to sustain you. Um, but like we were saying just before the question, right? It is a
Right.
process and it's not a content piece. So in a coaching session, what happens is really helping you clarify, even in an organizational change intervention, right? It really is helping people gain clarity, because if you don't have clarity of where you are, you're not going to be able to decide where you're going,
Right.
right? So kind of just getting a picture of where you are versus where you want to go, and then that picture of where you want to go. Some people have it 100%. Some people have it like 50%. Some people have never thought about it,
Yeah.
or spend too much time thinking about it. And so it's the gap between where I am, where I want to go, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's bridging that through strategy, through action plans, is what
Mm-hmm.
happens throughout a coaching journey or a consulting journey for an organization. So
Okay.
I think another challenge for Farz's question, right, is the challenge that people, especially during the pandemic, they were so worried of, I just need my business to survive.
Right.
I just need my business to make money and not shut
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so their concern is not necessarily that I want to build people just yet. Um, but with the fact that people are going through digital transformations, people are seeing that there's a whole great resignation that is happening.
Right.
Uh, these are patterns that are emerging, and people are realizing I need to invest. I
Survive.
need to
Yeah.
help. I need to help my people because they are the ones who are going to help the business grow.
Those
Um,
are your assets, really.
so
Yeah.
that's changing a little bit, I hope.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to add on before we take the next question. I want to add on to Faz's question.
Mhm.
Um, I imagine there's a challenge in sort of engaging with a company to coach their staff. But what about when you're coaching individuals where you
Mm.
want to speak to, and you mentioned just now about the stigma of, if I need coaching, that means there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at C-suite level people, say HR says, oh, I think you've been doing great, but we'd like to send you our CEO for coaching. At that level, you have a certain degree of, I suppose, I want to say, pride, that you kind of have to then say, oh, I'm the boss. You're sending the boss for coaching. I mean, how do you tackle that, or how do you approach that and say, no, 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 it's there's nothing wrong with you. We're just helping you grow.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from what we'll say is like, let's have a understanding conversation or an exploration conversation, and get all of our assumptions out of the way, right?
Right.
So just like how this conversation is, I do a lot of, whether it's a group coaching, whether it's a one-on-one coaching, whether it's for an organization, it's let's get the assumptions out of the way and then build from there. So I think clearing the assumptions helps in addressing those questions. Um, but also just the fact that people then start looking at, okay, you know what, if the company is giving me this opportunity or this time and someone who's going to talk to me, then I might as well take it, right? It's on the company's
Okay.
time, and I'll use it lah. So that's one
Mm,
type of person. And of course they still do see benefits, and then there are people who are hesitant towards going for coaching because of that stigma.
yep.
And then what happens there is they might have a trial period and say, let's go through one session or two
And see if,
sessions,
if
and
you're
then
comfortable with it, and yeah. Okay.
see
Okay.
what you think from there, and if you want to continue. And I give that same caveat to any of our one-on-one coaches as well, and even for some of our training programs and organizations, we're just like, let's start because you obviously know you want to do something, but if it doesn't fit and it's not working, then then don't continue, because if it's not working for you, then why bother?
You're not gonna
Putting
push
in
and force.
it doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
there's no point. Yeah, you're right.
My intention is that you should benefit from it and you should grow from it. And if I'm not contributing to that, then I should remove myself from the picture instead of pushing for myself to still be there, right?
That's
Uh,
right. You're not really doing the part that, or that you aim to do, if you're gonna have to force your way in, to somebody, to somebody's mindset. Okay, so I'm gonna take this next question.
yes.
From this was, you said, your auntie, was it Miss Jayanti?
No, I don't know
Oh,
Jayanti,
okay.
but it's nice to see you. Oh, it's Joshua's colleague.
Oh,
Hi,
Joshua's colleague. Okay, hi, hi.
Jayanti.
Okay, so how do you identify and assist with the current pandemic, where there's many loss of jobs, or even pay cuts up to 50%, which is very true. And how can you be able to address these clients?
Mm.
Mm,
Um, So I think first it starts with a lot of empathy, just understanding the situation. So even in doing our training programs, doing change interventions, doing coaching sessions, we keep a very flexible payment approach. So that's in terms of like the payment side of things. But I think all of us kind of came together and said, hey, people, especially during this time, need a space to speak and to decide where they want to go. So there are two things that we've done for clients specifically like this. If it's a individual client and they really need the support and they're not able to pay, then we're just like, hey, just pay like the minimum because that's your commitment,
yeah,
right? It's not so
yeah.
much about the fee, it's the commitment. Another thing that we did for general publics was just we slashed our coaching prices by almost 60%.
Wow.
Like, yeah, 60%, just because we were just like, people need this. And so we're happy to just be of service in that area.
Right.
For organizations, what we've done is just saying, hey, even for individuals, right? You do the program first, you can pay within the month. You don't have to pay like right after the session.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you want to break down the payments instead of like paying a whole lump sum of like
Mm,
50,000 at one go or
bayaran
like
suran.
25,000 and 25,000, like, yeah, make it as an installment, right? And
Right,
and you work on what works for you.
right, right.
So I think we've just been flexible in understanding where people are and what they're struggling
Mm-hmm.
with. um,
Okay.
and so I think that's worked pretty well.
Okay. I mean, I think I've seen quite a few companies that also, especially consultancies that did that during when when the pandemic hit, and to still be able to contribute. And I think that really reflects how what your mom says about you as somebody who is saving the world with what you do. And I think that's absolutely true because that you and your team are willing to do this. Um,
Thanks,
okay,
Jazzy.
so
I'm glad that
thank you.
you
And
think
then
that's
a
a
question
win-win. Yes.
from Maria. I think going back to earlier on Fuzz's question,
Mm.
how many sessions would it take for you to truly identify an individual's standing and determine where they need to go?
Um, okay, some people come into a conversation knowing what they want to achieve.
Hmm.
Some people come into the conversation saying, "Hey, I'm just stuck. I am frustrated, and I'm completely dissatisfied with where I am, and or where my team is, or where my organization is." And sometimes starting from a place of dissatisfaction helps because that's your internal self telling you there's more than this. I need to do better for myself, and I want to
Hmm.
grow as an individual.
You know
And so
the
as long
problem
as
points.
yeah, and as long as that desire is there, I think that's half the battle, already kind of won.
Hmm.
Um, but for I think it depends on the individual. Sorry, I'm shivering because the aircon was on and it's cold, and I cannot stand the
Gosh,
aircon. So my, my body is just recovering from the cold. Just gotta shake it out.
I'll join you.
Thanks. Oh, hi, Iris. Yes. So he's one of my
Uh oh. Okay, Kathy is frozen. Let's give it a second for her to unfreeze in her wave. But I hope all of you guys are enjoying the session so far tonight. While we wait for Kathy to get back on. Um, yeah, those of you who have been joining us from the start, thank you so much. And those of you who have just joined us, don't forget to subscribe, like our videos, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you love this sort of content, or maybe even if you want to suggest other people and other different jobs that you want me to try and source out and find, I will definitely do that, and and try to find more people to interview. I'll just keep things going and wait until Kathy comes back in. Technical, yes. Thank you very much, Josh. Technical issue. Be right back. Yeah, so for those of you who are looking to find Kathy, she has she's got their website, busybuds.co. They have a YouTube page, busybuds.co, as well as LinkedIn, busybuds.co. You can find her and her team there and find out more about their coaching. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajesh. Yes, I think it's definitely something that is in the current time. A lot of people do need to probably explore about what Kathy was saying earlier. Is that every house should have a coach. I think every parent wants to be a coach to an extent. So yeah, those of you who want to learn a little bit more about Kathy, once again, their website is www.busybuds.co. As you can see in the trailer below. Am I moving in the right direction? Yes. Okay. And they have a YouTube page and the LinkedIn page. Okay, Kathy is back. Welcome back,
ah,
Kathy.
sorry,
Yay.
there was a bit
Thank you.
of the electricity cuts sekejap, so I lost
Oh,
transmission.
yo. Okay.
If I were to spin that, it would be like it's too much power to handle lah. But
Wow.
so there's a bit of panic. Thanks for waiting, guys. But
Thank
I'm
you so
back.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for staying on.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to move on to my next question for you,
Great.
which is how does it compare? I think, when it comes to what you do, and it's probably something quite common in the urban audience, in the more urban market, I would say. So how does it compare when you're doing it here versus maybe outside KL? What about things like language barriers? I think when you're speaking to a very I can see you probably have very good command of English, and probably also fairly good command of Bahasa Malaysia as well. But
Boleh
how
lah.
does that work out where, let's say, you're dealing with a whole team of people, and you've got some people who might be more at ease expressing themselves in a certain language, and it's a bit difficult for them to speak either in English or Bahasa Malaysia, to express themselves or to explain themselves, and for you to kind of really be able to read them. How does that work out for you?
Okay. So there have been instances where, I've trained people in Sabah, Sarawak, even
Wow. Okay.
Cambodia, um, in, of course, outside of KL as well. And a lot of the times when it comes to language, I think uh, it's not so much of the language barrier as it is a confidence issue, right? Because people just feel that if I don't speak the language well, that means um, it's not that helpful for communication. And people just they have a lack of confidence when they think that they're not going to be able to communicate better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the fear that exists in their mind.
Right.
And so how we try to do that, we do a lot of psychological safety setting and context setting in any of the workshops that we do, right?
Okay.
And I think it's beyond just the language. The language is one. I think even seeing people who feel like there are different levels of capability. So you
Mm-hmm.
might have people who are slightly more technically inclined and people who are technically, just so uncomfortable with technology, right? It
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
be groups of people who are like, I'm C-suite, and then this is the new hire who's just finished the onboarding process and coming into the organization. So like
I'm
I
an
think,
exec.
yes, we're
Yeah.
finally here, yay! And I think it's not so much about the language, but I think it's just the disparities that we think exist in our mind. So in setting up a workshop, like a coaching session or an intervention, it's always about creating that space where they feel like, hey, it doesn't matter if you have the right words, it doesn't matter if you're going to speak the same language, it doesn't matter if you have the existing capabilities. The whole purpose of you being here is because you want to go from where you are to where your next level of advancement is, and that's different for each person. So even in a group of people who are, let's say, one of the groups that we're doing right now is all technical leaders, right?
Right.
And you would think that they're all generally uh, very capable, very well spoken, but I think it's in their level of experience or their people skills that they feel like, oh, this person might do better than I might do better.
Right.
And so it's just kind of debunking that and saying, in some of the workshops that we do, it's like, um, okay, so one of the workshops we do is design thinking workshops, right? And it's all about innovation, creativity, and getting people to think about their users. And the first thing that people say is, oh, I'm not creative, I can't draw, or I can't speak the same language that you guys are in terms of like understanding the users. And it's just saying that if you're able to get your ideas across, even if it's a stick man, even if it's a tiny speck of drawing in the corner of the board, even if it's broken English or broken Malay, that's okay, right? And I think, as a fun fact, humans communicate 93% through our uh, non-verbal communication. So that means it is our tone of voice and it's our body language, right? So I think language is just a channel to help us communicate, but it's not the be all end all in human understanding. Yeah. So it is a lot of context setting, psychological safety, kind of just bringing people, acknowledging their strengths, acknowledging that, hey, you've gone from A to 8.2, and that's a growth for you, right? Somebody else might be at C and they've gone to G, and that's great for them. But you've gone from A to 8.2, and that's a celebration. That's worthy of celebration in itself. So I think by the end of the first or second session, people just feel more at ease. Um, and I think it's the mutual respect that happens in the room, because it's not just the trainer that's going to create that environment, it's how everybody else responds as well, right? So I have to give kudos to all the other human beings that are in the room as well, because their kindness and graciousness to others as well is what helps people really zone in.
Right. Right. So, I mean, okay, language aside, but what about
Mm.
you were saying about coaching people like from, let's say, in a group setting, you've got the
Yeah.
C-suite versus the new hire, who's just joining it. This is my first job. Oh my god! And versus somebody who's like, I've been in the industry for 20 years. Is it different when you're coaching these multiple age range, or you're approaching different generations, given like there's Gen X, there's Gen Y, Gen Z, and they all communicate very differently, or they all absorb ideas or express ideas very differently. So how do you, as a trainer, sort of tackle that?
Mm, I think so. One of the things is definitely celebrating the differences and the similarities, because I think
Mm-hmm.
we as humans are more similar than we believe, in terms of our human experience. But I think it's also celebrating the differences of, we're not meant to be cookie cutters of each other. We're not meant to be having the exact same experience as someone else. And that's honestly what brings such a vibrancy into any group, right? And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is, it's amazing, especially when there are people from different levels and different levels of understanding coming in together, because then we get to see the world through someone else's eyes, and just to view the world from a fresh perspective. So let's say the CEO has come into a coaching session and he's like, of course, there's also a level of, will someone who's new and younger be free to share? And some CEOs are so good at just making everyone feel comfortable, right? And when that does happen, I think people walk away with, I never saw that from that person's perspective. I never thought that that a fresh hire has to go through a process of figuring out where they need to plot themselves in the office, or who are the people that they need to connect with. Especially now that work is no longer just, at least it's moving towards, right? A lot of people are moving
Yeah.
towards collaboration and working across
Mm-hmm.
departments. Before this, it's a lot of like silo thinking. um,
Right.
but people are just like, oh, I never knew that this person has to put so much effort to get an answer, or to get someone to respond to them, or to get some paperwork sent to them. And that empathy that happens, that gets built in any of these sessions, is is the way that I think I we tackle it. Because I wouldn't
Right.
say that we're going to, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change that for the world.
You're kind of just
Because
building that bridge for understanding
yes.
between people, and I think that's definitely true. I mean, for example, somebody who is from an older generation might be like, I feel like this person doesn't struggle as much as I do,
Mm.
because I have to understand all these things. And maybe somebody from the younger generation is like, why doesn't this person know how to use a computer? Like, oh my
That's
gosh.
so true. I mean, like just 2 days ago, we're coaching a group, and it's like 4 people per group coaching, right? And I think so. It's the same process. Everyone's going through the same process. They're all writing down and responding to the same questions. But what happens when it comes time for them to share, and to share, their goals, their wishes, and what they want to work towards? By the end of it, these are some of the statements, right? I never knew that someone else was having the same challenge as me. I always thought that, you know, uh, you had your life figured out, but I didn't know that you're also working towards something similar. Or I didn't know you had these challenges. And when statements like that come out in a session, for me, more than the goals in the first session, because sometimes in a first session, like to answer Maria as well, right? Sometimes in that first session, you're not probably going to be able to write your action plans and decide, I want to do ABC, right? You're not like suddenly drinking a magic potion. But if that happens, for people to see understand themselves better, or understand people around them better, that's a big win in itself, in a first or second conversation. And then from there, it's like so much trust and so much openness that just gets built into the session. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So, before we move into our third segment, I want to do a
Mhm.
short sort of interactive thing with our
Yes.
audience tonight. Um, let's see. I'm sure Kathy, maybe you've done a few different things with your digital trainings.
Yes.
Do you have any question or any one question you want to throw at them to kind of like pop in an answer, just to drop their comments in? Anything in mind you have in mind that you want to like blast at them, or for me, I mean, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. What have you got anything?
Yes. Hold on, hold on. With all my tech going wonky a bit, Teams also disappeared. Jump, jump, jump.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so this is one question you can respond with emojis, right? You have three emojis of choice.
Yay.
Yay! So
Emojis,
you don't,
emojis.
you don't even have to put words, right? How do you feel towards um, when you hear the word change or like transformation or like change? Okay, like how do you feel when you hear the word change or you need to change or things need to change? The emoji you can drop is a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a celebration, that celebration one that's like that popper streaming
Oh,
out.
the party
Yes.
streamer.
Party streamer. Yes.
I had one ready, which is gonna be the purple heart.
Ah. Yay.
Oh wow, so we've got that. I'm guessing that's sort of a thumbs down
That's a thumbs down.
or
Person
a
face down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
I
so
think I've gone
thumbs up.
through a change. I've gone through a training session where
Uh-huh.
someone actually said change is constant, and I
That was
what
honestly
yeah.
that was the
I want to say a quick hello to one of my someone I used to work with in
oh,
Brunei, Amalina or Molly. She's brilliant. She's one of the people I really do look up to, and I
nice.
managed to
Hi.
learn a lot from.
Hi
One of
Molly.
the people I definitely would say also is a part of creating a big change in Brunei, and contributing to education of early education. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
big thumbs up
awesome.
to Molly as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi Molly. Love,
Yeah,
it's so great to hear the work that you've done too.
I
Um
see a lot of people seem to be all up for change, and I think, given the current times, I
we've
think
had no
everybody
choice
kind of
but to
just is like,
change.
well,
I like Maria's emojis because it's like the mata pusing and the pening kepala.
terima seadanya. Hashtag
Yeah.
pasrah.
I know. I mean, when you mentioned that the statement change is constant, right? That was
Yeah.
honestly one of the statements that I put in my first LinkedIn bio, in my
Mm-hmm.
first resume, the objectives page, because I was just like, yes, change is constant. I've lived my life all about change, right? So that was me then. But I think as much as all of us are really excited because of the way that the world has changed so much and we've benefited from seeing the change, I think Maria's emoji usually is the case when you're in an organization and then the organization says, okay, now we're going to change direction, or we're going to change our vision, or we're going to change, the way we're going to work around here. And
There's some
you're going to have to go
restructuring
onto
going
a
on.
new
Ta-da!
software. Yes. Now everyone's going to have an open plan office. Now you're going to have a closed plan office. So I think in the context, if you're going through it on your own, it's wonderful, and if you embrace it, that's amazing. But half of the time, it's just like, alamak, like another one. Like I have to go through change again. Like, isn't it enough already? And sometimes I feel like that too.
I think that
Even
is.
when
I can see
change
how
is
that is a big
happening.
challenge. Like,
Yeah,
and where your team would come in, which is helping them kind of embrace that change. Not only embrace, but kind of like adapt to it or be prepared for it. Like for example, as you said, if there could be a new software that's coming in, everybody has to now switch to it. And
yeah,
maybe the younger generation would be like, okay, I got this, blah blah blah. I totally can handle this. But maybe people who are on the older side, or who have already kind of become masters of the older software, like, what? How does this? What is this? How do I plot twist? I'm the one telling. Oh no. Well, Maria, since Kathy services are international, if you feel like your team needs a change
Happy to
consultant,
happy to help the people through the change. But honestly, you would think that the younger generation is more uh, adaptable to change or more flexible. And yes and no, and I guess it depends on the area. So for technology, sure, perhaps. In fact, for technology, some of the younger generation might be saying, but there's a better software than that. Like, if you're gonna change, you might as well change to this software because this
yeah,
is so much better
it's
than the
like
one that you're
we're now
planning
gonna
to
open a
use, right?
Facebook page. Oh, honey,
So the younger generation might have some ideas of like, actually, here's how you can do it better.
that's
But
true.
but honestly, like, change fatigue is a thing. As much as Zoom fatigue and like webinar fatigue is a thing, change fatigue is a thing. Um,
Wow.
and people just feeling so tired of going through so much, constantly changing the way that they're doing something or
Right.
processing something or communicating something. It can get very tiring, because it takes a lot of effort from an individual or a team to start shifting from ABCD of doing things this way
Hmm.
to suddenly going into like XYZ.
Right.
And then suddenly from XYZ, you're going to like EFG, and I use a lot of alphabets apparently in my
That's fine.
analogies. Absolutely love my alphabets. But yeah, change fatigue is a real thing. And I think that's where, as change consultants and coaches and facilitators, it really is about more than changing the software, because the process and system is bound to change, and that's always going to be the thing. But I think people's emotions and people's psyche when they go through a change is often forgotten when organizations or teams go through a transformation. So even like in this whole digital transformation era, everyone's suddenly like, we need to go virtual, we need to go online, we need our systems to be digitalized. That's the process, right? But they forget that the people exist, and that
Hmm.
people have to unlearn so many things and relearn so many things, and half of the time it's not even figured out yet. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like in a state of limbo that they're figuring things out in. And I guess that's where we come in as change facilitators, to really help them to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but also take steps slowly through the dark to get there until they see a light clearer and brighter ahead of them.
Mm, mm. Oh, wow. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree now that in this, especially in this time, it's so important to have that kind of facilitation of helping people get through these changes because, as you said, organizations are gonna have to go through these changes, but it's where the people being
Yeah.
ready to adapt to. And I see it especially as a parent with my child going through online classes. Obviously, as a parent, you see them kind of having to adapt to it. But imagine
Mm,
teachers who probably had excellent command of their classrooms as being physically present and
yeah.
now having to like, oh my god, how am I controlling like 20 kids? Unmute, like mute. No, no, you wait. Hang on.
That is so true. And we've had lecturers and teachers join in for our sessions too. And I think it's a freeing experience. I think half of it, honestly, Fatiha, is just the fear factor. More than the skill factor, I think it's the fear, right?
The fear of change.
The fear of change, the fear of I'm gonna fail, the fear of it's not gonna make sense, the fear of I will lose control if I try something new. And I think that's a lot
Mm.
of what happens when teachers, trainers, even managers, when they start going online, right? It's just, if I give too much space, I'm going to lose control of the session, right?
Or
And as humans,
I'm gonna seem vulnerable.
yeah, and I'm going to look like a failure in front of these people, right?
Mm.
And there's a
Yeah.
there's a muka you want to jaga when you are the boss, or when you are the teacher,
Yeah,
or when you're
that's
the
right. That's
head
right.
person. And I think it's just, it's being able to reframe that and say, hey, I'm figuring this out too. And I honestly am not quite comfortable just yet. So I'm going to be experimenting a few things as we go along. And if you think, I think just that two-way communication of, if
Right.
you think there's something else we could do, feel free to share. And I think that works with students and teachers too. Like,
Right.
one of the teachers that we worked with, She taught both primary and secondary school students,
Mm-hmm.
and for her, prior to the session, she was just, one-way communication. Here's your homework. You're going to do it outside of class and then come back in. And then after going through the session, just as simple as using Google Slides, right?
Yep.
Getting a whole group to come and talk together and discuss on one Google slide made such a huge difference for her. And to be able to say, I can release control and not be the one who's like juggling them all the time and making sure that they're within the boundaries all the time,
Right.
to allow space for play, to allow space for failure, to allow space for the limbo,
Yep.
um, is a lot of what we try to do. Um,
To let
Even,
go of that control, I think
yeah,
that,
because honestly, we're not in control.
yeah.
If everything around us tells us that we're absolutely not in control. And the more we become comfortable with not being in control, that's, I think, the greater space for innovation and playfulness and experimentation to happen.
The irony of releasing that sense of control being actually more empowering than
Hmm.
being in control, being the actual thing that gives you power. So on that, I'm gonna move on to our third segment, which is the "What do you think you do?" Right.
Some gumpa music,
Sounds, yeah, it's
eh?
like
Some dubstep in that.
yeah. Okay. So Kathy, in an ideal description, I think your mom really knocked it out of the park there. What would you? Okay, maybe that was what your mom thinks you do. What would you, in an ideal description, say you do?
um, I think as a change consultant, as a coach, as a facilitator, I help people get unstuck, unfrozen, and to take leaps forward. And I say like leaps, it's huge things, right? But starting with small steps. So that's what I would say, because a lot of times we all get this deer in headlights, when we're confronted with things, and just kind of helping people go from that to, you're doing amazing, you're able to, and acknowledging their strengths and what has brought them there so far. So yeah, I think in the ideal world, I would say I am the opposite of, um, what's his name? Is it Frozen? Friezo? The guy who freezes things, right? The superhero who freezes people in Incredibles. I look for his name.
Oh, Frozen.
Frozen,
Frozen.
right?
Frozen. I think his name was Frozen. I keep thinking of Mr. Freeze.
Oh. So yeah, I think I help unfreeze people
Right,
so that they
right.
can move. Yeah,
So the
and
opposite of
fly.
Elsa.
Yes, the opposite of Elsa, basically.
Okay, okay. And obviously, you've had the privilege of seeing your dad and maybe family members who were in a similar industry. But what was your personal expectation of this job when you first started? I mean, maybe you
Mm.
see it from it another perspective. But what about when you came into it? Did you think it was going to be the same? How was it? What was the expectation that you had?
Okay, the expectation I had is people will be lining up because obviously it's Frozen. Thanks, Keith.
It's
That's
Frozen.
my
Thank
brother.
you.
I knew he would come in to support me with the comic book
Yeah.
references. Yes. Yeah, I think my expectation coming into it is that people want to, people are ready, people are just hungry to, take themselves to the next level. So I think that's
Hmm.
what I expected to see. Um, and the rude awakening or the slap in my face was that people are not. People are scared to change. People are scared to take a leap of faith. Um, and so that was the reality. And so, I thought people would be lining up. I thought organizations would be ready and just wanting to take things and sign up the dotted line, like, help me. I will, my organization wants to grow bigger and faster and better. And
Right, right, right.
now. But the reality is, I'm not sure if we're ready for that. I'm not sure if my people are going to be open enough for it. I don't think we want to actually go 10x lah. We just want to go one egg spoon cukup, and I think we can do that ourselves.
No,
So
we're not gonna go that far. Just like
yeah, just sikit mo je boleh. I mean, which is good. Like any advancement is good, but I think um, greatness sometimes scares people, because we know that greatness requires work and greatness requires effort. And so greatness does scare people. Whether you're a single person, whether you're an organization, it is it is scary to put in that effort to do different to do things differently. Because
with
otherwise,
great
right?
power comes great responsibility.
It's also that quote of insanity is doing things the same way and expecting to get different results. I think that's how we sometimes approach things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think how do you see or how do you view other people who do what you do? I mean, do you kind of compare notes? Do you think like, oh, you do that like that and I do it like this and I think I kind of like that? Is there a copyright to no, this is my thing. You can't do this my way. Like, how is that? How does that what do you call it? Competitor dynamic work?
I think I've been so blessed to have people to collaborate with. Because first of all, coming and starting out Busy Buds as young people, all of us were second generation trainers. Our parents have been like so like let's say Arif and Belle and myself, we started Busy Buds together, right? And all three of our parents are either training, coaching, consulting, teaching
Wow.
people. And so we've seen that growing up, and so we know that there's so much more that is possible. And so that's how we came together. And so with that privilege of being second generation also comes the fact that there are people in our corners that already existed before we stepped in. So meaning our family, um, like my parents, my dad's contacts, um, and I think that one of the biggest things that I've learned, and I know my dad has said this to me, is when you give so much to people, you never know when it's going to come back and support you or your work. And so giving has been a big principle, and just sharing freely has been a big principle that my dad has told to all three of us at Busy Buds. And so we started taking that beyond, like beyond a formula for work, beyond a formula for like here's a format of doing change in the organization. I think the
Mhm.
principles are what brought us together. And so we have collaborated, and we still collaborate and continue to seek out collaborations from people across the world. Whether it's from the Western world or the Eastern world, whether it's from Malaysia ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, so we view people as collaborators, not competitors. But how do I view competitors? To be honest, um, sometimes sometimes it does. There is a tint of bias, right? Because I just have seen such greatness in the way that my father has done his work.
Right.
And I think that was a lot of the dissatisfaction when I started in the industry, because I was just like, oh, this isn't it. This is probably like 10% of what is possible.
Right.
And so just that dissatisfaction of, we're basically just being entertainers or performers, when actually our job is to be helping people transform. We're supposed to be transformers, right?
Right.
Not entertainers. And
Transformers.
oh, transformers.
Autobots roll out.
Exactly. We're supposed to help people achieve things, and
Right.
now we're just making them feel good, or we're just making them feel wow and amazing, which has a place. It definitely has a place,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't discredit that. But that's not all that there is. And so for me, I think there was a dissatisfaction, but also just like, come on, man, like we can do so much more if we band together, if we all come together with this lens of that there's so much more that we can do. The world is just going to blossom that much more. So I think there's a feeling of there's a desire that I wish other facilitators, trainers would um, kind of,
Embody or
yeah, come to the place of really serving their
the
user for
people.
their
Yeah.
need, and not
Yeah.
just not just for the self, you
I think
know.
that's something that's a quality that both you and Josh actually share, and I suppose the people you work with, and the teams that you have, which is very much that what we do isn't for the self, but it is for the people that we serve. It's very much I do this for the people and not just for myself, and I think that's really beautiful and something I respect so much about you guys. And I hope or aspire to be able to do that as well in whatever I do.
It's probably what
uh,
attracted us to each other. At least I'll
I know,
say, I'll
right?
speak for myself, lah. That's what attracted me to Josh for sure.
Sorry, Josh, not because you're handsome.
That too, that too.
Oh,
That was the cherry on top, but
the
it's the
bonus.
insight that counts.
Yes, yes. So and I think I had asked you this before, which is obviously nowadays it's very popular for people to also listen to podcasts. Before this it was all the rage of self-help books, and then now we don't have to read it, we can listen to it. Chicken soup for the soul now on podcast. Who
I
moved
had
my cheese?
chicken soup for the soul for kids. That was one of my favorites as a kid.
So there you go. So I mean, how does that how does your training or what you do is it an expansion of that? How does it differ from somebody who says, you know what, I don't need training. I have like this podcast I subscribe to and like
Mm,
that's my life. I totally listen to TED Talks all day. Like what I need you guys for.
same. I listen to podcasts all day on my walks. Sometimes when I'm cooking, which hasn't happened in a while, but at least the walks happen now. So I listen to podcasts frequently. Uh, I I I love that. I love that there is a place for people to go and be inspired. Um, yes, yes, okay, fine. I already complimented you, so take it. But please give me messages.
Nasi goreng for you.
um, but yeah, so I love that there is a place for people to be inspired and for people to take things and because again, right, if you've come to the place of saying, I want to pick up this book, I want to listen to this podcast because I feel like it's going to help me, that's a great first step. Um, but there is no one size fits all. And I think that's where the difference is when you read a book or listen to a podcast that's a great inspiration and something that you could try and experiment with. But your situation is not the same as the person who wrote that book or the same as that person who is sharing their experience on a podcast, right? And I think a lot of podcasts right now is still very Western culture, and especially if we're in the East or in the Southeast Asia, our context is different,
Right.
and our experience is different, our culture is different,
Right.
and
I
and
agree
we,
100%.
and we forget to take that into account. Uh, so one size fits all isn't going to work. Our culture is different from their culture. My culture growing up in my family is different from, Josh's family and Josh's culture
Yeah.
in his family, right? And for that matter, like my experience as a daughter in my family is completely different from the experience that my brother had in the same family,
Yeah.
right? So like to say, like I'm sure in your family,
Hmm.
all of you would have different experiences with your parents and how you
Yeah.
may view them and your experiences. So um, I guess that's where the difference lies in when we have these one-on-one sessions and even in the work we do, whether it's consulting or facilitation, it is co-creating for what is the situation or what the person is going through. Um, so I think what
You kind of
happens,
personalize it to your
yeah,
audience as opposed to like whatever you're hearing, maybe out of the 100% you can only take maybe 60%. If that 60%
yeah,
works for you, that's great. But I suppose in that training you do having that two-way communication
mm,
enabled, you are then able to almost shape that outcome to be maybe up to even 80% to 90,
yeah.
even maybe 100, but at
And so
least
like
there's a lot more that they can take from that.
yeah, and like as I said at the start, right? It is 80% of the time we want to get people working on something, talking about something, and 20% of the time we're going to be speaking or sharing, right? And also that we're not content experts, we're process experts. So all of those things come in together to say that you are going to be able to create what works for your environment, your life, and your situation. Each organization is different. Each department within the organization is different from the other. And so to say what's going to work for the finance department is not going to work for the tech department, because those are two different organisms in itself. And so that's the difference, I guess, to be really present, and available to what is needed for a specific group, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time to look at it through a lens of you're not just an island. A team is not an island on its own. It's part of a bigger system, you know. And so how, because a lot of times, whether it's individual coaching or a team, right? The gap between what I've learned and experienced to applying is business as usual and
Mm-hmm.
life as usual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a book is going to help you to be reading it and getting all of these ideas. But what's going to help you in that life as usual, that gap, is where you get to create the steps forward. And so I think that's the biggest difference. That's the biggest advantage of this, and just gaining collective wisdom and a collective experience.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose somebody, as you said, somebody's input might actually open the eyes of someone else in the group and be like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Whereas, if you're just listening to it by yourself, you're like, oh, I'm taking in that person's input, but I might not hear someone else's opinion on things. Yeah, that is. I think I would definitely prefer a two-way thing as opposed to just one-sided. So I'm not a big. The only podcast I really listen to is just storytelling.
Oh, I listen to Brene Brown most of the times.
I like a
Most
lot of
nice
murder
things.
mystery.
Ooh.
Weird that way. But yeah, okay.
Uh,
So we're moving. Let's move on to the fourth segment of
mhm.
what you actually do. Okay, Kathy, describe a typical working day for you.
So as I said at the start, I wear many hats as a professional every single day, right? So I'm a business owner, and then as a business owner, my role is as a coach, consultant, facilitator. That's in the client facing. But then in my business itself, I have to do administrative, I have to do finance, I have to do social media and marketing, I have to do, all of these different things. So a day in my life is is exciting to say the least. And I think where people think I'm spending most of the time on Zoom, talking to people and supporting them
Coaching and
and
yeah.
running workshops and coaching and all that. I wish that was the case, and I wish that's all I had to do. But I think 60% of the time things have picked up, right? So I think previously it was probably 80% of the time I was doing this. Now it's 60%. So 60% of the time now is spent in writing proposals, spent on figuring out how my Wave app works so that I can send out invoices properly. It is trying to do reels on Instagram.
Internal change consultant.
Yeah, I have to adapt to change too, right? So thinking of how to do reels on Instagram and like Instagram posts and LinkedIn posts, writing articles, kind of calling up people. So a lot of my day is spent half on paperwork, half on connecting with people. Uh,
Okay.
and then most of the time, the majority of all of that work is supported by me eating snacks uh, through the day.
Powered by snacks. Happy
Yeah,
powered by snacks.
so true. Honestly, it's
Um,
one of our favorite check-in questions. Like, what did y'all have for breakfast today?
no, I think
Okay,
that's probably either a
a Malaysian
Nusantara
thing.
or a Malaysian thing. Kau dah makan? Dah makan? Oh, dah makan. Okay.
Makan
Penting tu.
apa? Oh, you from
Makan
you from
apa? Oh.
Kelantan? Oh wow, betul kita. Okay,
Makan
best.
is first.
Makan is life.
Makan is life. But what are some of the? I mean, you mentioned that obviously some of the realities of the job is that people aren't lining up,
Mm.
and there is actually a lot of paperwork involved. But are there any other challenges or realities that are hitting about this job that I guess without sugarcoating it, to kind of
Mm.
tell our audiences like, okay, this is how it really is.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is, I mean, just to be so candid, right? I think when people see this face, sometimes female, young, there are stereotypes that go with that. So I think the age card is generally one of the lenses that people view through. Um, and I think for the longest time, I also felt like, oh my God, people view me through this age lens. And I felt kind of restricted by that. But I think I've come to accept that, again, I don't need to know your content. I am really good in being able to extract from you and to help you visualize things so that you can move forward. And um, so yeah, I think just the ageism, the sexism, the colorism sometimes is the reality of starting off young. And I think people are just like, oh, you figured this out so early. You're 25 and you're doing this, or you're now 30 and doing this. And I don't think I'll ever be old enough to fit into people's reality of what a change consultant should look like. So I've come to accept that reality.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is probably um, the fact that um, people in organizations are are really, one, they really care about their organizations, right? And they're always going to want the best for their organizations. And in making those decisions, it there are so many things that come into play to make those decisions. One is how long you've been in the market as a company in itself. So for a company that just started just before the pandemic, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're still babies in this industry, right?
Yeah.
So that's a whole hurdle to pass through. Um, but I think the biggest thing that I have seen as just a green light is we've worked with SMEs, with startups, and we've worked with local conglomerates. And I think in every interaction, even though the initial expectation is, I'm not too sure. I'll give this a shot and see how it goes. But by the end, it's
Yeah.
always, which I'm grateful for, because I'm just like, yes, first foot in, like, just a little dip
Yes,
in the
yes,
water is
yes,
great
yes.
too. But once they've experienced
A.1. Okay.
8.1 okay, Jay, right? Just a free session, a webinar, no problem. I'm
We
more than
good. We
happy
good.
to, yeah. But once they've experienced a coaching session, once they've experienced a facilitation program, um, then there just is so much of trust. And I remember one particular experience where this was in my coaching certification program, okay? And there was one particular great bunch of people, amazing individuals, and all of us were just learning from each other in such different backgrounds. And there was one person who, an older gentleman, definitely very seasoned in his career, and is obviously coming to be a coach as well. And in that coaching program, we had to coach each other as practice, okay? So it didn't matter who you were suddenly randomly paired up with other people. And in my
Right.
head, I was just like, please don't make me coaching, please don't make me coaching, please, because I was just so scared. Not scared that I wouldn't be able to do a
Manifest.
good job, but just because of how he appeared, right?
Right, right, right.
Almost like stoic in nature, and just uh, almost like atas, right? So
Right, right, right.
so I was just like, okay, I don't know how I'll be able to penetrate through this character.
This
and
person, yeah.
and then the week that I thought that, the next week, okay, you are coaching this person. So I was like, oh man, okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to do it. And what was really interesting was this person barely spoke to anyone else in the whole program, right? He only spoke to one or
Uh-huh.
two individuals who are also of that same ranking.
Uh-huh.
Um, but from that coaching session, one, he really opened up. Two, after that coaching session, he was really, really appreciative. Um, to just be like, I'm so glad that we had this conversation. I'm so glad that you got to, like, I got to be coached by you. And I think he was
Oh,
testing
that's
me at the start.
nice.
At the start, he was testing me. I think he was just like, okay, so you're not my coach now. I just want to ask you a question. Do you think I am XYZ? And I was just like, oh my God, my coach just said, even if a person says you're not my coach, you still have to answer as a coach. So,
Yeah.
so that was a great practice in just being thrown into the fire and then
Right.
having
Right.
to find your way out of it. And I think that's been a lot of my life recently, or at least since starting a business. It's just been learned through going through the fire.
Right. Hit the
Um,
ground running.
hit the ground running. You're going into the deep end right at the start, right? So whether I feel like I'm completely ready, whether I feel like I'm completely qualified, even for this talk, okay, even for coming into this session, Fatiha, you have no idea. I was just so like imposter syndrome is real. It's really
I think
scary.
that's so funny because you were like, Josh, do it, go for it, Josh. And you're like,
I can
I
support.
don't
I can be a cheerleader. I
know.
can be a cheerleader. But then to put myself in that position is like, oh my God, are people gonna be finding it interesting to listen to me? Do I have interesting enough stories? Do I have enough
Okay, please
experience to
drop
share?
drop in the comments if you found Kathy interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. So what happened? Yes, Ms. Rajesh, I'll share. So by the end of it, he after that coaching session, this was like week 3 of the 3 months, right? Of eight sessions. And after that coaching session, almost every single break, or every single tea time, or every single session at the start of the session, he'll come and talk to me.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, that's a big win, because I this person who only spoke to one or two people who were at the same level, suddenly feels free, like that they can come and speak to me, was just such a win in itself. And I think he he was able to see himself through a different lens and through a different perspective.
Right. Right.
And I think that's just uh, because my job is never to tear down somebody. It's only to be able to help them reframe their thinking, or reframe the way that they see perspectives, right?
Hmm.
So I'm really glad that that happened, and kind of made a friend after that experience.
Okay, so we've got a question from my
Yeah.
sister-in-law. Hello, honey. Do you need to vibe with the person for the coaching session to be successful? Yeah. I would imagine this would be especially for the one-on-ones.
Yes.
Like, is that a challenge?
Uh, I don't think it's a challenge. I think it's necessary because if you don't vibe with a person, if you don't have a connection, and if you don't feel secure, you don't feel comfortable, then that space isn't going to be helpful for you, right? So I know, in all, at least most of my coaching sessions, I'll always give a space of saying, hey, um, first session, we can try it out. If you feel like it's not working out, we can we can end the coaching session, and you have all of that freedom. And at any point in time, even if you're 3 sessions in and you feel like it doesn't work, you're more than, because it's what's going to be useful for you.
Right. The
um
outcome needs to be there. If
yeah,
not, you're wasting your time and they're wasting their money, kind of like.
they're wasting their time, they're wasting their money, and
Yeah.
they're honestly probably going to walk away feeling worse than they did before,
Mm,
because each individual probably needs a different experience. And I think at the basis of it, it's going to be, is this person listening to me? Are they able to really be present for what I'm sharing? And I think that's the base, like the lowest expectation that you should expect from a coach, right? If you
right.
feel that this person is really being there for you and listening, and being a confidant, but also stretching you, that they understand you and are able to stretch you. I
Hmm.
think those are two great things that you should always have in your mind whenever you're searching for a coach. Do I feel like this person understands me, and do I feel like they are stretching me?
Right. I mean, yeah, I think I absolutely think for any, even if it's a group coaching session where if
Mm,
you have people who are just like, I'm just here because I have to be here. It's unfortunate because um they don't really get to benefit from what you have to offer, and then I
yeah.
think that's the unfortunate
I mean,
thing that
just
probably you have to face now.
just on the Thursday with the group that I was coaching, I think one of the contexts that I said is you are free to share as much or as little as you are comfortable sharing. And what I really liked is by the end of the session, one of them was able to say, "Hey, I'm actually not that open yet, and I don't feel like I want to open up as much just as yet. I know everyone else is, but I might take some time." And I was just like, the fact that you felt comfortable enough to say
to
that and
say that.
own
Yeah.
that itself it shows that you trust the group enough with
Yeah. And
that
I think that's great.
yeah. Thanks, Keith. Keith's like, you've
Okay,
extended your
next
husband's
next
time.
step is to exceed his views, huh? You guys. View.
My brother will
Buka
probably
dekat
be like,
buka dekat
of
phone, buka
course
dekat
she's
computer, different devices. Come on, let's go.
my brother will be like, of course she's extended time. Like, this one me always talking.
I get that a lot as well. Don't worry, you're not
My
alone.
whole family is just like, "Ah, this one is big mouth. My auntie calls me Big Mouth. Okay, that's her name for me since I was 5 or 6. Big Mouth
Oh
is here.
gosh.
Auntie is here. Our big sister is here. So you
But
know.
Kathy, really at the core of it, why do you do what you do? Why do you stay in this industry? What is keeping you here, and what would you be doing if it wasn't this?
Oh, okay. Why do I do what I do? Is one, I think my parents have always ingrained in the environment of just seeing the best in people and wanting to help them see the best version of themselves. Although through life, I have learned that even though you see the best in other people, they are going to want to see that in themselves, and you can't always help them see the best version of themselves, right? So I know I've had friendships where um, I see this person and they're like, I mean, they're great people, but I'm just like, oh, you're made for so much more. You can do so much more amazing things, and I'm
You
just
can do
like,
so much better.
genuine, not just better, but I'm just like, you're such an amazing person and you've got so much gifts to share and you're just not doing it. And I'm just like, you gotta, and I guess that's why I also push Josh, right? So I'm like, you can, like, you're
Go
capable of
for
so
it.
much more. You just put yourself out there. But I've learned that people have to be ready and people have to want it. You
Yes.
can't you can't you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't force the horse to drink. You
Right.
know.
That is absolutely true.
So that's one. And so I think just the genuine ability to see the best in people is why I do what I do. The desire for people to be the best version of themselves. I know that's definitely been in my family, and so that's definitely at the core of what I do. Um, and if I can be a conduit or a vessel to help them get from A to B, then I'm so happy to just be a part of that experience and that journey. If I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? if,
Fraudware.
if you were here at the beginning, you know that if I wasn't doing this, I would be on Broadway apparently. But that's in my dreams. I still treat my house as my mini little stage sometimes. So, but if I wasn't doing this, I think I would be I'm trying to stay away from things that are education, right? 'Cause otherwise, teacher could be one of them. Otherwise, motivational speaker could be one of them. If I wasn't doing this, I would be an actor, um, and I would love to tell stories um, of just amazing people and the possibilities. And I think I've always been attracted to acting just because you get to wear so many different personas and experience life through so many different shoes and to get so many different skills, right? Because if you I mean, imagine if I was in a Marvel movie, I would probably have zero help, a
You'd
healthy
be
regime
you'd be
before
paid
starting
to
that.
get a trainer.
I would be paid to like get six packs. I would be paid to learn like all these martial arts, and I would be
I
paid
mean,
to
get
do
fit
all of
and
these
get
crazy.
paid for it
Yeah,
too.
I'll
Oh
be
my
paid to
god.
like wear a costume and say all of these lines. Yeah,
Oh
sign
yeah.
me up for that. So that's one thing I wish I. I think at the back of my mind, I still would love to do a little bit of acting here and there.
Well, I think through what you do, you in a way you do still tell stories. or rather live vicariously through the shoes of people, where you see the best versions of themselves, and when they do take the steps towards that, I think in a way you are helping them in that journey,
I
in
love that.
telling that story.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna
in a way
I'm
you
gonna
are
take that advice.
contributing
Yeah.
to that. Yeah. I hope you do.
I'll take that. Yes.
So there's a little piece of you telling many many stories out there. Okay.
Yes.
And my well, second last question for the night would be, what would you advise people who are interested to do what you do?
Um. Okay. There are so many ways to go about it. I honestly think that um, there is possibly no one track to go through,
Mm-hmm.
right? I, as you all know, I started off performing arts and then media and then came into drama-based training and drama-based
But how do you
teaching
get
and
like the certification
education.
to become a
Yeah.
certified trainer?
So to become a certified trainer in Malaysia, you have to go through HRDF. That's
Okay.
one of the bare minimums that you have to go through. You get a HRDF, train the trainer cert. But
Okay.
that's honestly the bare minimum, and that doesn't really um, give you skills as a facilitator, as a coach, right?
Okay.
So I think if you want to really do work deeply in this area, um, get a coaching certification, either the International Association of Coaching or the International Coaching Federation are two
Mm-hmm.
great bodies to look at. So I got mine from IEC, the International Association of Coaching, and then also get a facilitation certification, or at least go and learn some facilitation skills. Because I think that as a manager, as a leader, um, even if you are not able to go through a coaching certification, learn some facilitation skills. And basically, what that means is you're able to design a meeting or design a conversation in a way that people are able to share their thoughts openly. You're able to manage the dynamics in the room, because a lot of what we do as consultants and as facilitators is managing the different dynamics, right? Because you might have someone who is extroverted and always sharing their ideas, and you want to give space for equal contribution and that safety. Um, so go and learn some presentation skills. But even if you don't do any certifications, observe people, observe groups, observe relationships, and what influences someone to do something. And if you're able to just have a mindset of, I want to help people have better conversations, I want to help people express themselves better, then whatever you try, as long as you're curious about those two things, I'm sure you're going to do something good in those two things. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm more than
Uh,
happy to also, have a conversation and help you figure out what that is.
so yeah, on that, I've actually, if you guys can look up Kathy. I just realized Faiz changed your job title to Broadway actress. I
Oh,
was
thank
like,
you guys.
something changed.
I will accept.
Thank you so much for this.
This is my Academy Award, and I just want to thank Faiz for this privilege and this honor for upgrading me to Broadway actress.
So yeah, if you wanna if you're looking to go into the industry, not of Broadway but of training,
Don't get it mixed
speak to
up.
Kathy. There's a LinkedIn below. You can look her up if you wanna find out how you can get the certifications. I'm sure Kathy would be more than happy to help you,
Yes.
and give you the necessary links, or wherever you need to
So
go
many
to
of
get
my friends have
certified
become
and find
coaches
out.
now too, so always happy
I mean,
to
I was
invite
I was
people.
telling I was telling for everyone to know, I was also telling Kathy that it was something I was actually interested to go into as well. Although I did not end up there, but it was genuinely something I did consider at a point.
Sometime you will probably come to the side. It's just a matter of time.
Matter
Come to
of
the
time.
dark side.
Come to the educational side.
come to the come to the bright side, really.
Yes, come to the bright side. So as we come to the end of our show, thank you so much for everybody who stayed through the whole time, especially to Josh, our your husband, my husband, who's here, my technical man,
Yay!
who's
Yay for
stayed through
spouses!
so much. Yay for
Supportive
spouses.
spouses are the best
Yes,
thing, the best gifts of
best.
God.
So I shared earlier on the link, the Busy Buds link to everybody when you unfortunately went offline.
Oh no.
But yeah, is there anything you want to give an extra shout out to? The stage is yours.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you and Fai so much for having me and for also upgrading me to Broadway actress. I think honestly, this conversation helped me to really hone in and figure out how I would explain what I do. So thanks for that opportunity because I never
And now
sat
we know what
down.
you do too. So now when we meet,
Yeah,
people be like, I know what that is. I gotcha.
yeah, and I've never sat down to really think of it other than trying to describe what my dad did, right? So that's one thing. I think obviously my family, my parents, my Academy Award, and of course Josh for pushing me and my business partners and all the collaborators that we work with have just been such um, they've been like the fertilizers to the soil that I grow in, and so I'm really appreciative of that. I think, yeah, for anyone watching, if you're interested in coaching, if you want to just pick up the skill, or if you want coaching or change work for yourself, your organizations, I'm more than happy to just have an exploration conversation, no strings
Yeah.
attached. Just reach out. I'm always happy to just shed light and to be that space again, talkative, so always happy to have
I
conversations.
want to add on a thank you to my international viewers from Brunei. You guys have been
Yay!
so awesome. Molly, I know Maria joined us as well, and they've been they've been so great to view from a whole other country, and
Yes.
despite them being under lockdown,
Also
I
my
really
friend
appreciate
Nandini
that.
from Singapore.
Oh, look at that! We've got, wow,
Yes.
international viewers. You got that,
she
Josh?
she was the president of the TV club in the school that I was in, the
Oh,
uni that I was in, and
wow.
then she upgraded
Okay.
me to president of the TV club. So thanks Nan for always believing in me too.
But yeah, so as
Thank
you
you,
said
Maria.
earlier, you also are able, and my mom, hey, mom's in, hey, mom.
Hi, hello.
But yeah, also, I mean, as you said earlier, you do sessions for, you have had international clients as well. So, as you said earlier, if anybody is going through having to go through the change for their organizational changes, if they want to just have a conversation with you, as I said, website, YouTube, all that, LinkedIn, down below. Tick, 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 tick.
Yay.
Uh, so yeah, you've
Don't forget to
definitely
subscribe to
exceeded.
what I actually do too.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you haven't already, please
I'll plug that
subscribe to
in
the
for you.
channel, like the channel. Um, after this show is done, if anybody wants to catch up on it, if you missed the show, you can catch it on YouTube on this channel and also on Spotify. Next week, well, we haven't confirmed it yet, but we are, as it is, Malaysia.
Malaysia
I would say
Day.
Hari Malaysia,
Yeah.
Malaysia Day is coming up, so I'm hoping to. I will always be.
Sorry, I'm just
Oh,
laughing at first statement.
next week we're hoping to get a special guest, a lady of influence, and inshallah, I will be hopefully getting her on board.
I'll be
So
tuning
yeah,
in.
we'll see how that happens. But do look forward to next week. And I
Yay.
hope you guys will all tune in for all the other episodes coming up. But as I said earlier on, if you have any suggestions, of people you want me to speak to, any jobs you're curious about, you'd be like, oh, what do Grab drivers do, or what does somebody from Shabas do, or something like that. I will try and reach out to those people as well. But do drop that in the comments. I will try and source out these people so that we can all find out what they actually do. So as always, I am your host, Fatiha. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you very much to my guest tonight,
Thank you for being an
Kathy,
amazing host,
Broadway
Fatiha.
actress.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank
All
you.
right, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks
Have a good evening.
everyone.
Have a
Good
great
night.
weekend, and stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed the show. Give us a like, subscribe to catch more episodes, or share this video to your friends. That's all, folks. See you next time. Good night.